Cool. Let's just start because I think more people will probably join. So I just wanted to give an update on the new user onboarding. Can everyone see my screen? Fine. Yeah, perfect. So the last time I was presenting on this call, we were just about, it was actually the first iteration I ever did for the guided user onboarding. It was a prototype, a very early stage one, and I received a lot of feedback on this call, and we did a lot of improvements just based on that feedback. But since then, wait, I'll just go through the solution section here on the issue for it. I gave a link, I attached a link to the document. So I split the solution into 4 parts. One of them is the actual user flow of what the users will go through when they join the new user onboarding. Then another one will be to add a link to the Learn GitLab, is how we call it, to the help menu in the navigation, so that even the existing users can access it, or even if someone already went through it, they can go through it again. And then even the interactions of the Learn GitLab helper, as we call it, how they can interact with the actual guided onboarding, and if they lose track, how do they get back to it, and things like that. Then is the positioning of the helper, and then also I put a lot of emphasis on the exit interaction, because I think it's important at this step we could collect feedback from people, but maybe this won't be possible with the MVC version of it. So I'm happy if it's not included in the MVC, but eventually we should include it because it will help us improve this bit of the product quite a lot. So this is then the user flow that I was talking about. And since the last time when I was presenting this, we were thinking about designing these user onboarding flows for each type of the personas that we have. And we had 6 personas at the moment. I think we added the designer persona recently as well, so we probably have 7 now. Since then, we simplified it a bit because we want to validate that this type of guided onboarding will work with the minimum amount of effort and with the amount of effort that can go into a single milestone, and we can deliver it basically. And we decided we won't do a dummy project. We won't do any tailored onboarding for personas at the moment. We will introduce quite a generic onboarding, and we will guide the users through the GitLab Community Edition project. So we will take them to the project overview, repository overview. They will introduce them to the commit screen and commit details, stuff like that, right? So I'll go through the prototype briefly in a moment. And then also we will show them how to create a new project and how to invite their colleagues to the newly created project. So this is something we feel we can deliver in a single milestone, and maybe even by the end of this milestone. And we can start learning from it very quickly instead of working on something huge, you know, tailored to personas and then creating a dummy project. And in the end, it might not even have the results that we're looking for, right? Which is positive results. Okay, so this is the issue where we documented the feedback from the user testing that we did with the initial prototype. Catherine scheduled these calls. We wanted to have 5 calls with 5 participants. We ended up having 3 because 2, I think, canceled or something like that. She had 2, and I did 1 user testing session as well. It was the first time I got the opportunity to do that since I joined GitLab. I did it in the past, but it was actually more fun to do it with GitLab participants, because I think we have such an engaged community that people are eager to join these calls and just give us feedback. And it was actually the case, because the person that I was having this call with told me that he had a lot of fun and he would love to do more of it in the future as well. So yeah, thanks again to Catherine for, you know, scheduling all these calls and preparing the scenario and the script on such short notice, because we were moving quite fast with this. But if we go to the prototype, so this is the simplified version of that screen that we initially had, where we had the user choose among the 6 personas. We're basically just introducing the types of helpers here and telling them we will guide you through a guided tour, basically guided onboarding. Of course, they can skip it. So this is something that we'll introduce to the newly signed up users. But as we'll run tests with it, it will be only a certain percentage of newly registered users at first, and see what the feedback will be from that. And it will be only on gitlab.com in the first iteration. And that's also because we can't have that dummy project. Once we introduce that dummy project, we can also introduce this in the self-managed instances as well. So yeah, this is very much simplified. In the past, we had 2 screens introducing the types of personas and then the project, and telling them, hey, we will take you through a project and show you stuff and show you around a bit. We're now just telling them we will show you around, basically. And this is where it starts. I can't see it because, yeah, I see Zoom. Okay. And yeah, these are the types of helpers, and we're introducing them to this screen, for example. And then we guide them to the repository and tell them about the repository a bit, and to the commits. And again, we tell them about the commits. Just a basic introduction of users to our interface, basically, which I think should be much better than just throwing them on a single screen and having them figure out by themselves, which is what we do at the moment. So I had trouble of positioning these fellas in the prototype for the sketch. So yeah, you can see that there's inconsistencies with which this one should be much lower. Comparing the commit with the branch, with the master branch. And then we also go to the issues, and we show them how to filter the issues by accepting merge requests label. And then we go to the issue itself. We explain them what the interface is. So I was trying to strike a balance between how much content we have in these helpers and how helpful I believe it is, because I didn't want these. This is, for example, quite long already, 3 paragraphs. I didn't want to go more than 3 paragraphs long. And then in the end, of course, we also introduced the CI/CD, which I think is quite good because we have a lot of pipelines running on the community edition project. And again, it's so much better to see this already set up and running than trying to set up your own project from scratch and trying to set up a pipeline from scratch as well. And then you can also take a look at the pipeline. And then, because it's the tour is basically divided into 3 parts. So this is the guided tour. And then we also want to show them how to create their own project, but they can also drop out if they feel like they've seen enough, right? Or maybe they're not ready to create their own project yet. They can drop out, and we basically tell them, yeah, this is it. This will disappear basically now. So we introduce them to this quick menu. They create a project. And again, here can I go back? Yeah, I can. So they created a project, and we want to now show them how they can invite other people to this project, which should be, helpful towards getting more users in the future. But if they don't feel like it or don't feel ready to invite more people to the project they just created, they can say no thanks. But let's say that they want to do that, and we tell them where to do that and how. So this is very much simplified. They would need to enter an email there and add project, but I simplified it for the sake of the prototype. And this is pretty much it for the prototype. Did I want to call? Okay. So the final bit was the free trial sign up. So through all the research that we did, we saw that the free trial sign up was quite broken and hard to get through for the users. So we want to introduce improvements there, and I already wrote down a couple of things as I was doing research. So now that we are starting to implement the MVC prototype for the user onboarding, I will now focus a bit more on the improvements for the free trial signup, which will be the rest of this milestone for me, plus a couple of other things. And yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show. Does anyone have any feedback on the latest iteration of the guided onboarding?
I love it.
Cool. I'm glad.
Like there's an expected place to go to see these tips now. There's that little doc. Like I really love that. Like I'm not looking for the tool tips. I know where to go and look for them.
The little helper on the bottom right? So this is something that came out from this call initially, and yeah, I thought it was a really cool idea, and it would be perfect for, you know, people when they lose track, because I remember myself going through guided onboardings, and then you click on something that you weren't supposed to click on, and you lose track, and there's no way to get back into it, right? And I said this is going to be perfect because you can resume from where you left off. And no, this is not it. Yeah, especially if we have a really simple way for them to do so. So they would come back to the website and they would see this and they would say, hey, I want to resume this. They would click on it naturally and they would have the option to resume Learn GitLab, right?
It's awesome. The overflow button, the 3 dots, that just opens up the doc, right? Okay, that makes sense.
That's actually there just to indicate affordance, that you can actually click on it, but clicking anywhere on this would open the whole menu. Yeah, that's just there to make it look more clickable, I guess. But yeah, I'll get some more feedback from users on this. The initial feedback that I got from one of the users was that it didn't have good enough contrast with all the user interface that we have in the background. So maybe we can explore a darker version of it. But it was only from one of the 3 users that we received that feedback. And the other thing is this is fixed. So as you scroll, this remains fixed. So it should be quite, you know, visible, and it will animate in once the page loads. So these things combined, I think it should be okay, but let's wait until we see how it gets properly implemented, and then we can gather feedback on a much better, because this is so much simplified, right? This prototype done in Sketch, basically. It's a bit hard to imagine how it will actually work.
Yeah, something you could think about doing is if our standard is AA compliance, if I remember correctly, that's what it is. You could also just play with what a AA contrast in a gray would look like and just see how that feels. But I really like the doc, and your icon for clicking made I mean, I think that's super intuitive, but I love that you thought through also making the entire doc clickable. So it's just an affordance, but you can click anywhere. I think that's great.
Yeah, I thought that was actually important, because if I only had the small logo there and it says Learn GitLab 1 out of 3 in the progress bar, it doesn't really look clickable.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a bit of shadow, but it just wasn't enough. So I felt I needed something more. And then you also need something to close it once you open it, right? And it just turns into an X once it's open. Yeah. Cool. So
I wonder, so
when
a user clicks X, it just closes the menu, right? Yeah. I wonder if they would expect that it closes the helper. That might be something I'd test.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah.
Like maybe it could just be expand, collapse. I mean, I don't know. Maybe those icons could be explored.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on, definitely.
As you were clicking through, I was quickly reading the content of the tutorials, and I really, really like it. I think that the voice and tone that you've used is really nice. It's friendly and it's engaging. So that's really, really well done. Cool. I would like to have us run this by a technical writer just to catch like some missing commas and things like that. I mean, that's tiny little nuance refinements. I don't want to change the way that you've approached it at all. I think it's...
Yeah, I did ping Mike in one of the comments in this issue, so I hope I'll get some feedback from him as well. I think I'm looking at the wrong issue again. I keep mixing them up. Yeah, it's this one. I did ping him. I hope I'll get some feedback. Yeah, it would be nice, because sometimes you just notice I misspelled minutes wrong in the first iteration that I did, and I just didn't see it. And it's nice to get some fresh eyes on some copy always.
every writer needs an editor, doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, but don't, in the editorial process, don't lose that friendly, engaging tone. Keep that. That's solid.
Cool.
I really, really like it.
Yeah, that's actually what I was aiming for, because we want to sound a bit friendlier in this particular case, because it's the first experience for most of the people that will go through this, right? So it can't be just something really bland and cold. It needs to be a bit warmer, and it's guiding people, right, as well. So it needs to be quite, yeah, friendly, I would say.
You did a great job with that, though. I second Christy.
Cool, thanks. Cool, and I think if that's it, we're ready to wrap up the call. Are we?
Thank you for sharing. This was really fun.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Cool. And yeah, the next time we'll revisit this when we'll look at this again. I hope it will be implemented already, so we'll have something actually live and built to go through and see how it actually works. And we'll also have data to see, does it actually work? Do people go through this? Do they find it helpful? I hope we'll get that little survey implemented as well, that's where people will be able to rate it from 1 to 5. Is it like really helpful? Is it somewhere in between? And get some qualitative feedback on it as well, of course, right, through user testing. So yeah, that's definitely the next steps. Cool. Thanks, everyone. I'll stop sharing my screen and we can end the call. Cool.
Great work.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.